Welcome back to Animals Today. I'm Dr. Lori Kirshner. We're speaking to attorney Kenneth Phillips about dog parks. Ken, what are your pet peeves when it comes to people using the dog park?
I think that one of the worst things, one of the things that bothers me the most is that when a person is just really the wrong person for the dog park, or they're bringing in the wrong kind of dog. Now, I'll tell you what I'm thinking of specifically. You could have a dog walker who is using the park, and they're using it commercially for their business, and they're bringing in too many dogs. So it's not as though we as taxpayers want to support that because we're supporting somebody in their business. I don't think dog walkers with a lot of dogs should be bringing them into the dog park. I think there should be a top limit of let's say 3 dogs for a dog park. And then similar to that, you've got the obedience trainer who comes into the dog park and is trying to, train a dog there. Don't do that there. That's not really what it's for, because it's just not fair to everybody else. And then speaking of what's unfair to other people, you've got underage kids, in other words, who bring dogs into the dog park. A kid who can't control his dog should not be bringing that dog into the dog park. Similarly, on the other end of the scale, the elderly person who is making use of the dog park. I love the elderly. I'm getting that way myself every day. But I don't want somebody who can't control their dog to bring their dog into the dog park. Now, worse than that is the owner that drops off their dog and disappears. That's wrong, because now there's nobody to watch that dog. Who's going to watch it? Everybody else? It's not our responsibility. So the owner who drops off the dog or doesn't watch the dog, I don't like. And speaking of owners, I don't go for even owning a dog if you don't have insurance. And I'm talking about either renter's insurance or homeowner's insurance. Both of those insurance policies usually cover accidents that are caused by your dog. But you have to check. You have to make sure that there's no exclusion in your policy. The way it works is if your policy doesn't mention anything about a dog, then you're fine. But if your policy mentions that it doesn't cover injuries caused by animals or injuries caused by dogs or injuries caused by your unpopular breed of dog, you got to change your insurance. So I'm completely against the owner who doesn't have insurance using that dog park, because if something happens, who's going to pay? The victim's going to pay.
Right.
Those are the main things that bother me in dog parks: the wrong people and too many dogs.
Ken, how do you categorize the clients you see? Explain to my listeners the elements of your practice.
There are 3 types of people that consult with me. One of them, of course, is the dog bite victim, because that's the most serious type of an incident between a dog and a person. But there are 2 other things that I have gotten involved in that people don't particularly know me for. One of them is when the dog has been injured or killed. In other words, where you've brought your dog out, for example, and your dog is on a leash, and 1 or 2 dogs come running down the street and they get in a fight with your dog, and now all of a sudden you have to pay $1,000 or $5,000 in vet bills. I wrote a book for that because this is a case that attorneys usually do not directly handle. I wrote a book for that called When Your Dog is Injured or Killed, and that book is available on my website, dogbitelaw.com. And then the third type of case that people bring to my attention is the case where their dog is being accused of being a bad dog. In other words, they've been summoned to dog court, and they are now facing penalties themselves in terms of fines or restrictions on owning a dog in the future, and their dog is facing some kind of a penalty like confinement or even being taken away from them, like in the story that you told at the beginning of this show. So that is called, I wrote a book for that. It's called Defending Your Dog, Win Your Case in Dog Court. And Lori, I'm not in favor of vicious dogs. I don't want anybody who has a vicious dog to even know about my book. But for people who are summoned before the dog court and have to defend themselves, because attorneys don't handle these cases directly, because it's very expensive for the dog owner if an attorney gets involved. For people that are looking for justice, and even people that have a bad dog, but want to make sure that the sentence is commensurate with the crime, so to speak, those are the people that need this book. So those are the three things that I get consulted for. The dog bites, which is the main thing, and then when a dog is injured or killed, and when a dog is being wrongfully accused.
How do you define vicious?
Well, vicious is that's a very good question, because there's two different ways to define it. One way is the common sense way, which is that the dog, without any kind of legal provocation, goes after a person or an animal. That's the common sense definition. And now notice that I said without a legal provocation.
Right.
There are people that will say that, the doorbell rang and that was provocation because it caused the dog to get startled, and that's why the dog suddenly woke up and bit the little kid that was sitting next to the dog. That's not legal provocation. By legal provocation, I mean something like the dog was defending itself, or somebody just hit the dog with something and the dog snapped at the person. So that's the common sense definition of a vicious dog. Then you have a different definition, which is when the authorities have summoned somebody into dog court because of some incident that has occurred. And that incident in some cities can be as little as the owner was walking too many dogs. All right? They may summon the dog owner into dog court and then label the dogs as being vicious or dangerous under their code in that city. So you have two definitions. One is the common sense definition, and the other is you've been labeled. Your dog has been labeled a vicious dog.
Kenneth Phillips, thank you for educating us about dog parks and what we need to be aware of. Ken is the author of DogBiteLaw.com and will answer your email questions free at kphillips@DogBiteLaw.com.
You're more than welcome. It was a pleasure talking to you.